bidang penelitian, pengabdian kepada masyarakat, inovasi, hilirisasi dan kerjasama, Ibu Dr. Anita Rahmiwati, SPMSI. Kemudian yang kami hormati narasumber kegiatan kita pada hari ini, Profesor Ahmad Rohi Ghazali dari Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia. Selamat datang di Universitas Sriwijaya. Kemudian yang kami hormati Dr. Trisna Warman selaku Kepala Dinas Kesehatan Provinsi Sumatera Selatan sekaligus mahasiswa program doktoral di Fakultas Kesehatan Masyarakat Universitas Sriwijaya. Bapak Ibu pimpinan yang mungkin berkesempatan hadir pada kegiatan kita pada hari ini, kemudian Bapak Ibu dosen di lingkungan Musri, segenap panitia, kemudian seluruh peserta Kuliah Tamu Internasional hari ini baik dari program sarjana, magister maupun doktoral di lingkungan Fakultas Kesehatan Masyarakat Universitas Sriwijaya. Pertama-tama mari kita panjatkan puji dan syukur atas kehadirat Allah Subhanahu wa taala atas limpahan rahmat dan nikmat-Nya sehingga kita diberikan kesempatan dan kesehatan untuk menghadiri kegiatan kita pada hari ini, yaitu Kuliah Tamu Internasional dengan tema Environmental and Occupational Toxicology, Heavy Metals and Pesticides in Agriculture. Tema ini menjadi sangat relevan dan menjawab tantangan kesehatan masyarakat dan keselamatan kerja di sektor pertanian, khususnya dalam memahami dampak paparan logam berat dan pestisida terhadap kesehatan manusia serta lingkungan. Kemudian sholawat bertangkakan salam semoga selalu tercurahkan kepada junjungan kita Nabi Allah Muhammad SAW, kepada keluarga, sahabat, serta pengikutnya hingga akhir zaman. Insya Allah kelak kita akan menjadi bagian dari umat beliau yang akan mendapatkan syafaat di yaumil akhir. Amin, amin ya rabbal alamin. Hadirin yang kami hormati, atas nama panitia kami mengucapkan selamat datang dan terima kasih atas kehadiran Bapak Ibu dan seluruh peserta. Adapun susunan acara kita pada hari ini, yaitu yang pertama adalah pembukaan, kemudian yang kedua adalah menyanyikan lagu kebangsaan Indonesia Raya, kemudian dilanjutkan dengan kata sambutan dan pembukaan resmi oleh dekan, kemudian penyerahan plakat dan foto bersama, kemudian dilanjutkan dengan pembacaan doa, dan yang keenam adalah kegiatan inti kita yaitu penyampaian materi oleh narasumber, dilanjutkan dengan sesi diskusi dan tanya jawab, kemudian acara yang terakhir adalah penutup dan sesi dokumentasi. Bapak Ibu hadirin yang kami hormati, untuk mendapatkan keberkahan dan ridho dari Allah Subhanahu wa taala atas kegiatan kita pada hari ini, mari bersama-sama kita buka acara ini dengan melafazkan lafaz basmalah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Selanjutnya menyanyikan lagu kebangsaan Indonesia Raya. Hadirin dimohon untuk berdiri.
Di sana aku berdiri
Hadirin dipersilakan duduk kembali. Baik, acara berikutnya adalah kata sambutan oleh Dekan Fakultas Kesehatan Masyarakat Universitas Sriwijaya sekaligus membuka kegiatan Kuliah Tamu Internasional secara resmi. Kepada yang terhormat Bapak Dekan Fakultas Kesehatan Masyarakat Profesor Dr. Haji Hasim SKM, waktu tepat silakan.
Baiklah, terima kasih. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi sholli sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good morning to everyone. Our respected rector of Universitas Sriwijaya, Professor Taufik Marwa, distinguished Professor Ahmad Rohi Ghazali from the Faculty of Health Sciences, University Kebangsaan Malaysia, our respected Vice Dean 1, Professor Rosli Kapora, Vice Dean 3, Dr. Anita Mawati, Head of Departments, Bachelor Degree holders, Head of Study Program, Magister and Doctoral Degree holders, Business College, Research and Postgraduate and Doctoral students. A special welcome to Dr. Haji Krishna Warman, MPes, SPKKLP, Subs VOC, IVOCA, JPML, JMPP, JM, NCS. Oh, very long title. I call Dr. Chris. Congratulations Dr. Chris. Kemarin Dr. Chris mendapatkan penghargaan luar biasa. Alhamdulillah Sumatera Selatan menjadi provinsi pertama di luar Pulau Jawa, di luar Pulau Jawa dan Bali, di luar Pulau Jawa dan Bali mendapatkan sertifikat eliminasi malaria dari WHO. Yang kedua, Dr. Chris juga mendapatkan penghargaan sebagai Indonesia Visionary Leader Award 2026. Maka kita bangga karena Dr. Chris adalah bagian keluarga besar FKM Unsri. Jadi beliau adalah mahasiswa doktoral di lingkungan FKM Unsri. Sekali terima kasih Dr. Chris bisa hadir dalam opening guest lecture hari ini. Kemudian Associate Professor Dr. Nofrika Sari selaku inisiator dan lead dari program Equity Project yang alhamdulillah bisa menginisiasi kegiatan kita hari ini. Other guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's both an honor and pleasure to welcome you all to the Faculty of Public Health, Universitas Sriwijaya. On behalf of the faculty, I would like to express our heartfelt appreciation to Professor Ahmad Rohi Ghazali for accepting our invitation and for being with us today. Your presence reflects the strong and growing academic partnership between the Faculty of Health, Universitas Sriwijaya, and Faculty of Health Sciences, University Kebangsaan Malaysia. And we are truly grateful for your willingness to share your prestige with our academic community. Over the past few days, the Faculty of Public Health has been privileged to host a series of international academic activities under the University Sriwijaya Equity Program, supported by the Indonesian Endowment Fund for Education (LPDP) through the Hager Education and Endowment Fund. These initiatives are designed to strengthen academic excellence, expand international collaboration, and accelerate Universitas Sriwijaya journey towards becoming a globally recognized university through visiting professor, joint profession, collaborative research, and international academic networking. And also, just a few days ago, we had the privilege of learning from Professor Samsul Azhar Shah, also from University Kebangsaan Malaysia, but he was faculty is from Faculty of Medicine, who delivered an inspiring lecture on the psychometric of public health. And today, we continue the academic journey with another important topic, environmental and occupational toxicology, heavy metals, and pesticide in agriculture. Kebetulan sebenarnya kita ada dua dokter Prof. Rohi yang menekuni doktoral degree-nya di bidang isu yang sama. Ada Associate Professor Dr. Anita ada ya di bidang sama bidangnya Prof. Di bidang juga pesticide ya, dan also kita dapatkan juga kemarin doktoral dari Fakulti Public Health Indonesia, Asosiat Profesor Dr. Imelda juga mengambil tema yang sama tentang pesticide. Jadi nanti kita bisa kolaborasi dengan Prof. Dr. Anita untuk melakukan riset, karena ini merupakan isu yang sangat penting, terutama di negara-negara berkembang yang memang banyak menggunakan pesticide. Ya, semalam kami diskus dengan Prof. Isu tentang mikroplastik juga menjadi isu yang cukup relevan dan penting untuk kita bisa sama-sama riset. Together, these activities demonstrate our commitment to expose our academic community to diverse international perspective and emerging global public health issues. The theme of today's lecture is particularly relevant to Indonesia and many other developing countries. Environmental pollution from heavy metals and pesticides exposure continues to pose significant challenges to occupational health, environmental sustainability, food safety, and community well-being. Addressing these complex issues requires rapid scientific evidence, interdisciplinary collaboration, and innovative research that inform effective public health policies and interventions. As the Faculty of Public Health, we recognize that our responsibility extends beyond teaching and learning. We are very committed to producing high-quality research and then increasing publication in a reputable international journal, and strengthening international partnership that contributes meaningful solutions to public health challenges at both international and global level. We are therefore delighted to welcome Professor Rohit, whose distinguished expertise in pharmacology, toxicology, occupational health, environmental health, and public health research has gained international recognition. We believe that his insight and experience will inspire new ideas, broaden our scientific perspectives, and encourage meaningful collaboration between our two institutions. This visit is also particularly valuable because it extends beyond today's guest lecture. Yesterday, Prof. Rohi conducted a coaching clinic on scientific writing for a reputable international journal. Unlike a conventional seminar, this session provides participants the opportunity to receive direct feedback on their manuscript and to discuss practical strategies for improving publication quality. It is specifically intended for lecturers and postgraduate students who are already draft manuscript and are preparing them for submission to reputable international journals. I would especially like to encourage colleagues who have not yet published corpus in this journal to take advantage of this exceptional opportunity. Jadi, Prof. Rohi, sebetulnya kami masih ada sekitar 20-an dosen-dosen muda yang belum punya indeks corpus, dan harapannya dengan coaching kemarin yang disampaikan oleh Prof. Rohi, mereka menjadi lebih paham bagaimana melakukan submission, bagaimana menulis, bagaimana menyusun artikel-artikel yang bisa punya qualify untuk disubmit di jurnal internasional berputasi indeks Scopus ataupun WOS. Karena saya tahu betul kalau di Malaysia bukan hanya indeks Scopus saja, tapi wajib indeks WOS itu luar biasa. Akan kami banyak belajar dari Prof. Rohi untuk bagaimana menulis seperti ini. Dan harapannya nanti Prof. Rohi setelah ini kami masih akan masih konsultasi gitu ya, by email, online gitu ya, untuk bisa banyak mendapatkan pembelajaran dari Prof. Rohi. Likewise, lecturers and students seeking advice on manuscript development, journal selection, or publication strategies are warmly invited to participate. I am confident that the guidance provided by Prof. Rohi will strengthen participants' confidence and significantly improve the quality and competitiveness of the scientific publication. Looking ahead, I essentially hope that the visit marks the beginning of an even stronger and more strategic collaboration between University Wijaya and University Bangladesh, Malaysia for joint research, publication staff, and student exchange, joint supervision, and other academic initiatives that will bring lasting benefit to both institutions. To all participants, I encourage you to make the very most of these opportunities. engage actively in today's discussions, ask questions, exchange ideas, and put new academic connections. I hope that by today's international guest lecture and yesterday coaching clinic will be inspired, innovative research, strengthen international collaboration, and increase the number of high-quality international publications from the Faculty of Public Health University Sriwijaya. Before I conclude, I would like to once again express my sincere gratitude to Professor Ahmad Fauzi Ghazali for sharing his knowledge and experience with us. My appreciation also goes to the Rector of University Sriwijaya, our Vice Deans, member of staffs, the organizing committee, and everyone who has worked tirelessly to make this international academic activities possible. Also for our master ceremony, Bapak Pujian ini, ada juga kawan saya tuh, Pak Dr. Associate Professor Dr. Arina Friel. Kalau sempat bisa keluarkan silakan Pak Dr. ke depan. Beliau kawan kami, sama-sama alumni dari Germany, dan juga adalah dulunya sebagai Ketua Internasional Universitas Sriwijaya. Gitu. Beliau banyak memberikan pembelajaran di luar negeri. Alhamdulillah bisa hadir di tengah-tengah kita. Ini masih aktif di beberapa negara Asia, memberikan kuliah sebagai lecturer. Selamat datang, Dokter, di ruangan kita gitu, bersama bergabung dengan kegiatan guest lecture hari ini. With the session of Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, it is my great honor to officially declare the International Guest Lecture on Environmental and Occupational Toxicology, Heavy Metals, and Pesticide in Agriculture open. I wish you all a productive, enriching, and inspiring day. Thank you very much. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Baik, terima kasih kami ucapkan kepada Bapak Dekan atas kata sambutan telah disampaikan dan juga pembukaan acara secara resmi. Kemudian kita lanjutkan sesi berikutnya adalah pemberian plakat. Mohon perkenan Bapak Dekan, kemudian narasumber Prof. Ahmad Fauzi Ghazali untuk maju ke depan. Kemudian panitia yang bertugas untuk memberikan plakat kami mohonkan untuk bersedia memberikan plakat. Didampingi oleh Wakil Dekan 1, 3, kemudian Dr. Tris, kemudian Ibu Nomrika selaku Ketua Pelaksana Kegiatan. boleh merapat ke tengah ya. Nah, ambil posisi di tengah untuk mereka kelihatan. Baik, terima kasih. Boleh tepuk tangan untuk kita semua. Baik, Bapak Ibu, kita lanjutkan acara kita pada hari ini, yaitu pembacaan doa yang dalam kesempatan kali ini akan dipandu oleh Saudara Amili Wirta SN. Waktu dan lagi silakan.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Marilah Bapak, Ibu, dan teman-teman sejawat dan seperjuangan kita berdoa bagi agama Islam. Mari kita menundukkan kepala sejenak seraya berdoa untuk keturunan agama Islam bagi agama non-Muslim bisa memberi kepercayaan masing-masing. A'udzubillahi minasyaitonirrajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asrofil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Allahumma shalli wa sallim ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali sayyidina Muhammad. Allahumma inna nas'aluka salamatan fid din wad dunya wal akhirah wa afiyatan fil jasad wa jannatan fil ilmi wa barakatan fil rizqi wa tawbatan qabla al-maut wa rahmatan lil maut wa maghfiratan ba'da al-maut. Allahumma hawwin alaina bi sakaratil maut wan najata min al-hisab. Allahumma ighfir lana wa liwalidina warhamhuma kama rabbayana shaghira. Ya Allah, ya Tuhan kami, segala puji hanya milik-Mu. Ya Allah, berikanlah limpahan rahmat, nikmat kesehatan, serta kesempatan yang Kau berikan. Pada hari ini kami dapat berkumpul di ruangan ini dalam acara Kuliah Tamu Internasional Fakultas Kesehatan Masyarakat Universitas Sriwijaya. Ya Allah, ya Tuhan kami, jadikanlah kegiatan ini sebagai majelis yang Kau berkahi. Limpahkanlah ilmu yang bermanfaat kepada kami, ya Allah. Bukakanlah hati dan pikiran kami agar mampu menerima ilmu dengan baik, memahami setiap materi yang disampaikan, serta mengamalkan demi kemajuan ilmu, pengetahuan, dan peningkatan derajat kesehatan masyarakat. Ya Allah, ya Tuhan kami, anugerahkanlah kepada kami kemudahan dan kelancaran. Ya Allah, yang Maha Pengasih dan Maha Penyayang, lindungilah kami, ya Allah. Karuniakanlah kami kesehatan, keselamatan, kekuatan, serta keberkahan kepada kami semua, ya Allah. Jadikanlah Fakultas Kesehatan Masyarakat Universitas Sriwijaya sebagai institusi yang senantiasa melahirkan insan-insan yang berilmu, berintegritas, berakhlak mulia, dan mampu memberikan manfaat bagi masyarakat, bangsa, dan dunia. Ya Allah, ya Tuhan kami, ampunilah dosa-dosa kami, dosa kedua orang tua kami, dosa para guru, dosen, pemimpin, serta seluruh kaum muslimin dan muslimat, ya Allah. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa bil akhirati hasanah wa qina azabannar. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Baik, terima kasih. Insya Allah setiap rangkaian kata dan kalimat yang terucap menjadi doa akan diijabah oleh Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Amin, amin, ya rabbal alamin. Baik, hadirin yang kami hormati, kini tibalah kita pada acara inti pada hari ini, yaitu penyampaian materi Kuliah Tamu Internasional dengan tema Environmental and Occupational Toxicology, Heavy Metals and Pesticide in Agriculture, yang dalam kesempatan ini akan dipandu oleh moderator kita, yaitu Ibu Bobi Pujianti SKMSC. Kepada Ibu Bobi, waktu dan tempat kami silakan. Kemudian kemudian nanti akan sekaligus memimpin terkait dengan sesi diskusi dan tanya jawab.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I hope you don't mind that I combine languages today. I'm going to use Indonesian with English, so excuse me. Oke, selamat pagi, salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Hadirin yang kami hormati, merupakan suatu kehormatan bagi kami untuk menyambut narasumber pada sesi ini, yaitu Profesor Dr. Ahmad Romi Ghazali dari Faculty of Health Science University Kebangsaan Malaysia atau UKM. Beliau saat ini menjabat sebagai profesor serta chairperson of the UKM Animal Ethics Committee. Profesor Ahmad Romi Ghazali menyelesaikan pendidikan Bachelor of Science in Pharmacology di University of Liverpool, kemudian meraih gelar Master of Science in Toxicology dan PhD in Biochemistry atau Toxicology dari University of Birmingham, Inggris. Beliau telah mengabdikan karir akademiknya di University Kebangsaan Malaysia sejak tahun 1994 dan diangkat sebagai profesor pada tahun 2017. Bidang kepakaran beliau meliputi farmakologi, toksikologi, kanker atau kanker, produk alami serta kesehatan masyarakat dan keselamatan dan kesehatan kerja. Hingga saat ini beliau telah menghasilkan ratusan publikasi ilmiah berreputasi internasional dengan indeks 20 di Scopus dan lebih dari 1.100 citasi yang mencerminkan kontribusinya yang signifikan dalam pengembangan ilmu kesehatan di dunia. Hadirin sekalian, marilah kita sambut dan berikan apresiasi setinggi-tingginya kepada Profesor Dr. Ahmad Romi Ghazali. Stage is yours.
So what I'll do today is to talk about environment and occupational toxicology in general, but I'll be specifically talk about elementals and pesticide toxicology when it comes to the agricultural practice. Okay, so thank you also Poppy for actually introducing me with So, like what Poppy has just said, pharmacology and toxicology. Pharmacology is about study of drugs. When you learn about drugs, you know that drugs can give you therapeutic effects, the effect that you want, but it must come with side effects. Adverse reaction have to come with the drug. So it makes sense that when you study pharmacology, it goes hand in hand with toxicology. So that is my area of teaching, and my research will probably be more on cancer, particularly to prevent cancer, because we all know prevention is better than cure. With the government, I'm involved with, as a panel expert with food additives and food contaminants to establish food safety. I'm also involved with the ministry to look at the biosafety of many genetically modified products that will be used in Malaysia or imported and exported from Malaysia. Okay, and the latest research that we are mentioning is actually looking at the toxicological profile of substance of abuse, which we call as NPS, or new psychoactive substances. When you have your amphetamine, when you have your shampoo, when you have your ecstasy as a substance of abuse, they are regulated. Okay, if you are found possessing these drugs, you can be put in jail. But with the NPS, there is no legislation, there is no regulation yet. A lot of us can actually get NPS from the online purchase. Okay, so the risk of addiction can be greater. Why is it not regulated? It's because a lot of studies have not been carried out on this NPS. So that is our latest research venture with the Royal Police of Malaysia, looking at the toxicological profile of this NPS. So that's a little bit of me. I better introduce myself with what I do and what I teach, because I don't want you to think I'm a scammer. Okay. Can you hear? Okay. So I'm Junti from Monet. I'll break my lecture into 3 parts. I'll first introduce you to the concept of toxicology. In order for you to understand the toxicology of heavy metals and pesticides, you must understand the basic concept of toxicology. So I'll go through with toxicology, and then I'll go into deeper when it comes to environmental and occupational. Okay, and then I'll go straight to what is our interest for this morning. That will be the heavy metals and also the pesticide toxicology. I'll end with my talk with a simple case study, which is actually already a concern globally, which is the microplastic toxicology. When you talk about microplastic later, you will see that microplastic will act as a vehicle. It can contain a lot of other toxicants in the microplastic. So you don't only have the toxic effects of the microplastic, but you will also get whatever it is going to be contained in the microplastic. For example, your heavy metals and also your pesticide. So rather than just specifically on heavy metals and pesticide, we looked how they can also be in the microplastics, which is also a very significant environmental pollutants. Okay, so what I'll do now is to give you the basic concept and knowledge with toxicology. Okay, so in my lecture, I would, because I'm also I used to be the assistant dean for teaching at the faculty. So I know how students think. When you are in a lecture, you can only concentrate for about 3 minutes. After 3 minutes, you will then go through your mobile phones. After 3 minutes, you will then check your Instagram and TikTok silently. Okay, so I would not want the lecture to be dry, so it would be better if the lecture would be interactive also. So I would rather then start to understand the concept of toxicology, to give you an activity so that it will stick in your head longer. Okay, so when you look at the chemicals or substances which are toxic, you will always see a label or a symbol attached to the bottles or to the boxes. It would be a symbol of the skull and bone. Skull and bone, yeah? So when you see the symbol skull and bone, what do you think? What would you think it would represent? And that's a question for you to answer. When you see a skull and bone, what does it mean? Would it give you a slimming effect? You become slim? No. What does it mean? Would it be a good effect? No. It must be a bad effect then. What is the bad effect that you would see or you would predict when you talk about the skull and bone as a symbol? Death, exactly. You die. Okay, nobody wants to die early. Okay? And when you talk about toxic materials ultimately will give you the ultimate toxic effects would then be death. Okay, so toxicology is agent, chemical substances that would able to give you the ultimate toxic effects to death. And nobody wants to die. We want to prevent or live longer, so we have to talk about and understand toxicology. I want to give you an example. Say for example, you have these two bottles in your lab. You're working, you're doing a research in the lab, and you see these two bottles. One bottle contain of arsenic, and the other bottle contain distilled water. Okay, so when you first of all see the bottle with the skull and bone as a label, and it has arsenic, what would you do? You are in the lab and you see this bottle. What would you do? Would you have a party? Would you want to drink it? What would you want to do? Just stare at the bottle? You will handle it very, very carefully because you know it is going to give you the skull and bone. It is going to make you die. So you're going to handle it properly. Okay, if you consume the arsenic, you will die. Even half a teaspoon, you will die because arsenic has been used as a chemical weapon, has been used as a murder chemical for the longest years. Okay, so you know it is very harmful. It can give you the effects that you would not want, that will give you death. So you will handle it properly. Because you know a little amount can also make you die. Now what happens if you then see a bottle of distilled water? Same, you handle with care distilled water. It will not be the same because you know that distilled water, if you touch it, even drink it, consume it, will it make you die? It will not make you die. So you know that when you talk about harmful effects, you know about toxic effects, your arsenic will give you death, and it is toxic even at a minute level, small value or small dose. And you know that when you talk about distilled water, it will not be harmful because at small dose it will not give you death. You will not die if you even consume distilled water. But my question is now, can water kill you? Don't say drowning. Can water kill you? Can arsenic kill you? You understand that concept. Now can water kill you? Don't say drowning. Can water kill you? Yes or no? Yes and no. Which one is louder? Yes. You all have your handphone. Please Google water intoxication. Don't look. What are the cases that you see? Are there any cases of water intoxication? The question needs answered yes or no, Ms. Hajj. Yes? Yes. So, water. Can that water kill? Yes. How can it kill? Don't say drowning, don't say poison in the water.
When you drink too much or too
Very good. When you drink too much. When you Google just now water intoxication, you will see there have been many cases when it comes to water toxicology. There have been many cases where people can actually die when they drink a lot of water. One case happened in America where there was this radio station doing a game at the radio station. The game was so stupid. The game was like, you need to drink lots of water, don't go to the toilet. If you can hold your wee or WEE or being urinate, you can win your WII. WII is your PlayStation Nintendo console game. So it is very expensive. So the radio station said, if you can hold your wee, you can win your wee. Okay, so it came right. So you have to drink lots of water, and if you can hold your beat, you can win the console, the PlayStation, the Nintendo game. So this woman was actually drinking lots of water, but she did not go to the toilet to urinate. She wanted to really win the Nintendo console game, but she did not win, and she died. Because when she got home, she got upset because she did not win the Nintendo game, the console game, but she already drank a lot of water. Okay, so the cause of death was water intoxication. That was one typical case of water intoxication. There are a few more of cases of water intoxication. So for the question, can water kill? Can arsenic kill? How to live? How to heal? If everything kills, correct or not? Exactly. So that brings me to the first concept of toxicology. When you get out from this lecture room, when you have learned about toxicology, please have this as your mantra. The mantra would then say, all things are poisons. Yang membedakan dia poison racun atau penawar is the dose. Does it make sense? This quote is from Paracelsus, father of modern toxicology. Dose determines the poison. Makes sense or not? So if arsenic, even a small dose can already kill you. Apalagi if it is a large dose. Makes sense? When you talk about water, would small dose kill you? Would 7 submarines of water kill you? Can still kill. Okay, so when Paracelsus was saying all things are poison, how are you going to live? How are we going to go through life? Are we going to be depressed? Are we going to cry at the pucuk katil? We still have to live. And this will bring us to the second concept of toxicology, which is very important, which is the risk assessment. So when you talk about risk assessment, risk is about you do not want something bad to happen. Risk is a probability. It's either it's going to happen or not going to happen. It's an all or none, either. Okay? So with the risk assessment, this assessment will allow you to handle, to consume, to live with things that you are going to be involved with. Make sense or not? So if you can assess the risk of arsenic, you know that small dose can already kill you. You know the risk is high. And when you know that when you drink a glass of water, it will not give you death because the risk of dying is low. But if you drink 7 submarines of water, the risk is going to be high. So in order to live, in order to establish the safety, we must in our life to always assess the risk. So when you do your toxicology, you have that as your mantra. Think everything, all is poison, even the cake, even the water, even whatever that you have eaten and drunk this morning, that can also be a poison. When you have that in mind, your life is going to achieve safety. Because life is all about choices. The choice that you make every day. Every day we want to be a good person. So at the end of the life is the total or the sum of the good choices you make. So as we live, as we go, we want to always make good choices. Because the total and sum of the choices we make, we want it to be positive or good. So we can then have the safety, we can then have the good health. Okay, so risk assessment is very important. But the thing is, to do risk assessment is also challenging. We want to actually have the safety. We want to actually have the good health. We must then apply the concept of risk assessment. So when it comes to risk assessment, first of all, you must know whether something is a hazard or not. Hazard is defined as something that can give you harmful effects. If something that will not give you harmful effects, we don't consider it as a hazard. Understand? Hazard is also considered as dangerous compound, meaning it will give you danger. A Okay, meaning harmful effects, ultimately it will give you death. Okay, and we've learned just now from the first concept of toxicology, semua racun, all things are poison. Those will determine the poison. In order to live, we have to assess the risk. When we have assessed the risk, we can then establish the safety. This concept can be imagined as, if you want to, say for example, you're driving a car, you have a mobile, you want to go to a destination, a long destination. So what will you do? You will then make sure that your car will then have enough gasoline. You will see that your car, the tires will then have enough of air. You will see that your engine is going to be good. So that you want to make sure that your journey to your destination is going to be safe. Say for example, you don't care about this thing. You just get into your mobile, your car, and then drive to your destination. You don't check your tires, you don't check your engine. If they are broken, can you get to your destination? You cannot get your destination. But if you have assessed the risk, you have seen your tires, you have seen your engine, would you be able to get to your destination successfully? Yes. So if you assess the risk, you are able to also get the safety when you are exposed or handle the agent. So what does this mean? If you do risk assessment compared to those persons who don't do risk assessment, okay, who will then not get the safety? Those who don't do a risk assessment, right? Now, if you do risk assessment and you want to get to your destination, can your car still be involved with accident? Can your car also get skidded to the drain? Can. But then the risk is going to be lower compared to the ones who don't do risk assessment. He or she will then get involved with accident more. So the risk is more. Understand? So that's the concept of risk assessment. Whatever you do now, because everything is poison, you talk about the risk assessment. Because at the end of the day, ultimately, you want to achieve the safety. Would that make sense? Okay, so that brings me to how are we going to do risk assessment. There are 4 important steps for us to do risk assessment. Now you have understood that all things are poison, those determine the poison. Now I want to live longer, now I want to be happy, now I want to be healthy, I want to assess the risk. I have to do 4 things. First of all, you identify whether it is a hazard or not. If you compare your arsenic to water, which one is a hazard compound? That's the question. If you compare your arsenic to water, which is a hazard compound? Do you understand what is a hazard? Something that can give you harmful effects. So, water and arsenic, which one is harmful? Arsenic. Arsenic is a hazard. If you have identified it as a hazard compound, semestinya it is toxic. So that's why it is important when we talk about food additive, when we talk about things that you put in your cosmetics, when you talk about things that you want to consume or you want to use, always read the label. Always go through the ingredients. Because the first thing to do risk assessment is to identify the hazard. For us to identify the hazard is simply you are able to read what's in the ingredients, what's on the bottle. And when you have read and you have found something which are harmful, you know already that risk is going to be high. That's the best thing to do. Okay? Now like I said, can water kill? Yes. But is water hazardous? No. Okay? You only die if you drink 7 submarines of water. So in this case, we still need to assess the risk. So what we'll do, we know already 7 submarines will make you die. Okay, but then if you drink a glass of water, it will not give you death yet. Okay, so what you need to do now is to assess the exposure. Probably you are not going to be exposed to it like you are going to expose to a large amount of a hazardous compound. And you would then think it's going to be okay. But what happened? In the morning you are going to be exposed. In the afternoon you are going to be exposed. In the evening you are going to be exposed. Tomorrow exposed. A day after exposed. A month after exposed. 2 months after exposed. 12 months after. Do you want me to carry on? So you're going to continuously expose to the chemicals. If you cannot eliminate the chemicals will then accumulate in your body. The dose now is going to be increased. Would it then give you that? Yes, it will give you that. That's the concept that you want to talk about when it comes to heavy metals and pesticides. Heavy metals are naturally occurring. They are around you, in the ground, in the water, in the air. But they are not in large doses, in small, minute doses. You also have your pesticides. Pesticides are meant for pests. They are not meant for humans. They are meant to kill insects. They are meant to kill weed. Okay, but you are going to be exposed to this pesticide because they are going to be sprayed to these animals, to this weed. So you are going to be exposed to this small amount. But it's still a concern. Why? Because exposure now you need to assess. You are going to be exposed to it because your occupation is a pesticide sprayer. When you are a pesticide sprayer, your occupation is going to do that every day, every morning, every week, every month, every year. So the minute amount, the dose of the pesticide, the minute amount or the low dose of the heavy metals, can it get big? It can get big because your exposure now is high. So mathematically, when you have your risk equals to hazard times exposure, if it is a hazardous compound, the risk is going to be high. If you have your exposure, it's going to be high, your risk is also going to be high. Simple as that. Okay, so you do not want to die, you lower the exposure. You will then lower the risk. Understand? Now, another concept of toxicology is always about the dose-response relationship. Paracelsus ngomong apa ya? Paracelsus tadi ngomong apa ya? All things are poison, you're not listening. Paracelsus is the father of modern toxicology. He mentioned there is going to be a mantra, you know now. Should be your mantra now. You come out from this lecture hall, that should be your mantra. All things are poison. The things that will differentiate a poison and a remedy is the dose. Always think that. Okay, so when Paracelsus, all things are poison, dose determines the poison. Makes sense or not? We need to do dose-response relationship. So what does it mean, dose-response relationship? Low dose, no death. High dose, got death. As easy as that. Okay, so in any chemicals, in any research, heavy metals, pesticides, microplastics, you need to be able to do the dose-response relationship. If someone is going to be exposed to low dose and they are not going to be dead, you are going to be allowed to be exposed to the chemicals. So in industries, in factories, if you are needed to be using metals, you are needed to be using solvent, yes, we can expose to the workers this certain amount of dose of these chemicals, but we don't worry because at the dose-response relationship, at that dose, it will not give effects. Understand? And we know if the workers in that occupation, if we increase the dose, if we look at the graph of dose-response, you know already it's going to be increased, you know already the effect would then be greater. So make sense or not, dose-response relationship is very important in toxicology research. So we must then do dose-response relationship. The concern or the challenge with microplastic is we cannot do dose-response relationship. How come? Because when you talk about microplastic, you can do your dose-response relationship to a plastic. But do you think you can only get one type of plastic in the sea, in the ground? You will then get many types of plastic. And remember when I say you talk about microplastic, it can also contain a lot more other contaminants. You don't know about other contaminants. You don't know how much of the contaminants in the microplastic. Would it be easy to do the dose-response relationship? No. That's the challenge. Okay, so we'll talk about the dose-response relationship and the challenge of microplastic as we go towards the end of the lecture. Are you still okay? I want to give another activity. Okay, before the pandemic. Okay, it started in February 2016. Johnson & Johnson, a company, a very huge multi-billion-dollar company, who commercialize baby powder, shower gels, drugs, whatsoever from America. You've heard about this case, but do you know what is Johnson & Johnson? Do you have talcum powder Johnson & Johnson in Indonesia? Okay, you use it on 2 babies. Okay, so starting from 2016, the family of this woman called Jackie Fox, okay, sued Johnson & Johnson because they mentioned that the talcum powder that the mother was actually doing had caused the mother to get ovarian cancer and then die. Okay, so it started from that case, and when it started from that case, the family of J.P. Fox won 72 million US dollar. 72 million. Okay, so rich. Okay, and when it involves a lot of money, people then think, hey, I'll also use talcum powder. Could this talcum powder give my mother, give my sister ovarian cancer? So from that 2016, a lot of cases have been filed against Johnson & Johnson, linking or associating talcum powder to ovarian cancer. And from 2016, can you see, there have been a lot more cases to be won, and Johnson & Johnson's had to pay out a lot of money. Okay, until now. Okay, I stopped here at 2018, now it's 2026, until now. So, how can we educate? When you learn toxicology, it's about creating awareness and also to educate people. That is the need that you need to do as a student who has learned toxicology, as a docent who are teaching toxicology, is to always create awareness and educate people. Why? It's because all things poison. So now, is talcum powder poison? Yes, but this particular poison is giving you ovarian cancer. So it will raise you a lot of questions. First of all, why talcum powder is linked to cancer? Why talcum powder is linked to ovarian cancer? Why not testicular cancer? Why talcum powder is giving you cancer to the ovary and not to the lungs, not to the skin? If your talcum powder is applied to the skin, if you inhale the talcum powder, these questions will come up in your mind, correct? So you have learned about toxicology. How are we going to deal with this? Think about the concept that we have learned. Think about the definition of toxicology now. When you have taken a shower or a bath and you put talcum powder, would that make you have ovarian cancer straight away? I don't know, nah? No, right? So how come it can give you ovarian cancer? Absorption, okay. We want to talk about the kinetics afterwards. But how can you read it now? As a public, you've read this in the news. You would then be concerned, right? Would I be able to buy talcum powder then? Why do you use talcum powder? Why talcum powder is put on a baby? For mothers. For sisters, you have a small baby. You use talcum powder on your baby, right? For what? Why me? When you say it's why me, that is a huge mistake for you to use talcum powder. Okay? Because a lot of us will always think about the fragrance of talcum powder, and that's the reason why toxic effects can also happen. But when talcum powder is actually being formulated or being developed or being marketed for babies, why do you think? It's because when you apply baby powder to talcum powder to baby, it's actually after you have cleaned the baby. After you have showered the baby, cleaned the baby, you want to make sure that you okay, is still wet and not dry, the baby will not get comfortable. When the baby is not comfortable, they cry non-stop. You will then not just uncomfortable, you get stressed. Okay, but then what you do, you put talcum powder to the baby. Baby wear diapers or nappy at the reproductive area, so they will not feel wet, they will feel dry, and the baby will not cry, the baby will then get comfortable. That's the function of talcum powder. It will then absorb all this moisture. Make sense? Now, when you talk about baby talcum powder, it has that smell, it has that fragrance. That is secondary. Okay? Normally, you do not want to put talcum powder, something that we should have smell. The baby would not like it, you would not like it. Make sense? So you put the fragrance in the baby talcum powder. Now, my question is, you're using talcum powder to babies, but we are talking about Jackie Fox, a full-grown woman who also need to wear talcum powder, but now she develops ovarian cancer. How come? So we know that talcum powder, the function is to actually absorb the moisture, okay, to make the baby comfortable. Would the mother also wants to wear the talcum powder to dry the body? No. So why the mother wears talcum powder? Do you wear talcum powder? No, okay, no. All I'm saying is, you don't have to worry when you wear talcum powder. We want to discuss it now. Okay, it's okay to wear talcum powder, but we do not want it to reach to ovarian cancer. So I'll cut this story short. Okay, when it comes to the grown food, we're going to do like that. Alwai mother, okay? The full-grown mother is going to wear it. When you are a baby, you are not going to wear it. Your mother will make you wear it, correct? So it has been a habit from young, from baby, that when talcum powder, your body will then get dry easily. Okay? And then as you grow older, now you want the fragrance. You want the smell. So you are going to wear it. And because you cannot afford perfume, you want a good smell, fresh smell, you put the talcum powder on yourself, on your body. Would you wear a little bit? You would not want to wear a little bit because you want the smell. You would then want to wear a lot more. Okay, you then not one dust, but then you wear a lot, the whole bottle, like the not really, like a weight really. So what will happen? You will then be exposed at large quantity. You're going to be using it as a habit. So meaning after every shower, every day, every week, every month. So exposure increase, dose is going to be increased also. Would that make the risk high? It would then make the risk high. My question now is, why ovarian? Why not lung? Why not skin? Because you put your talcum powder on the skin, correct? You don't put your talcum powder. How can it get to the ovary? How can it then give you ovarian cancer? This concept in toxicology is very important, not just for the chemicals, but also why it is important in the occupational toxicology. So what happening is, this woman, or whoever this woman, is wearing the talcum powder. Hygienicity is not being taken care of. You know hygiene? Kebersihan diri. Hygiene, they don't take care of the hygiene. All the mother want is to smell good. They don't take care of the hygiene. They don't shower. They don't clean themselves. They don't want the smell. Put the talcum powder. Put the talcum powder, not one dust, but the whole water. Because the smell is too much. Not using one time, using 2 times, 3 times, the whole day, the whole week, the whole month, the whole years. Okay? Don't take care of the hygiene. You put on your skin, on your body, the powder will fall off. But if you put on your reproductive area, it will not then be fall off. it will then be accumulated at that reproductive area. Make sense or not? The more time you give the talcum powder to be dusted there, will it then go in? It will then go in, and that's why it is linked to ovarian cancer. How come not testicular cancer? Boys also wear talcum powder, right? Men, do you wear talcum powder? Of course you say no. But men can also wear talcum powder. But how come only linked to ovarian cancer and not testicular cancer? Question mark, right? It's because when you compare the anatomical, the structure of the reproductive organ of a female and a male, when you dust the talcum powder on the male reproductive organ and the female reproductive organ, which one will then be easily brushed off? The male, because in the male reproductive anatomical structure, there will not be a hole, there will not be an area where the powder is going to be stuck or accumulated. Make sense? Okay, so that's why it's ovarian cancer. So Johnson & Johnson have lost a lot of money. Okay, so Johnson & Johnson is a multi-billion-dollar company. They do not want to carry on with the legislation. So now, if you can see, if you happen to actually see in the market, there is no longer baby Johnson & Johnson baby talcum powder. Okay, they have stopped marketing or producing talcum powder, Johnson & Johnson baby powder from 2025. Okay, and if you look into the current talcum powder by Johnson & Johnson, because of this legislation, because they have lost a lot of money, you will see that it's all about this one. Still Johnson & Johnson, can you read the label? Is it now talcum powder? Can you see? It's cornstarch. Talcum powder is made of talc. That's why it's called talcum powder. Talc occurs naturally. Around you there is talc. Talc, silica, all these are heavy metals. Silica, you make your marble. Okay, silica in the cement. Okay, and when you have silica, you also have talc. So this talc is then made to become talcum powder. So when talc is actually associated to ovarian cancer, and Johnson & Johnson have been sued so many times, Johnson & Johnson do not want to lose any money, so now all talcum powder is made of cornstarch. Okay, so if you are ladies, if you wear your powder, you will see it's no longer just powder, they are made of a better product which are from cornstarch. Okay, so this is what I'm trying to say is, when you talk about toxicology, creating awareness and educating is important. Educating people is important. When this case comes out, would you want to say to people, don't wear talcum powder? Would you want to say to your mother now, hey, don't wear that talcum powder to the baby? Yeah. Or you are at the grocery and they don't buy talcum powder because it can give you ovarian cancer? Would you want to say that? No. You cannot say that. It's not talcum powder. You cannot blame talcum powder. You blame the people who actually do not know how to wear talcum powder. People who do not understand the function of talcum powder. Make sense? So in this case, when you are a toxicologist, it's all about educating people. When there is microplastic in the food products, would you want to say to people, don't drink that, don't eat that because they have microplastic? No, because naturally they are going to be there. Okay, occupationally they are going to be exposed to the chemicals. So proper education, proper monitoring is needed. That's the concern that we want to deal now a little bit more. Okay? So, dose-response relationship is important. Okay, I do not know how deep have you gone into toxicology, but if you look at the figure, when we talk about dose-response relationship, you would then see that at the y-axis is your response, your x-axis is the dose. That's why it's called dose-response relationship. What did other sources say? Everything is poison. People at the back still don't know what. 3 times already asked that question. Should be a mantra already. All things are poison. Dose determines the poison. So at low dose, if you look, would you get any response? As you go towards the right hand side, would you get response? Ayo, would you get response? And as you go to the right hand side of the x-axis, you all have learned drawing figures, right? You all learn mathematics, right? So you have your dose response. Low dose is going to be at the left hand side. Your left hand side. Right hand side is going to be higher dose. As you go towards your right hand side, dose is increased. The response is high. Response is increased. Okay, so that's why it's called dose response relationship. Would it then answer what Paracelsus is actually saying? Low dose, would it give you death? High dose, would it give you death? Yes. Okay, so the response here at the y-axis here, when it comes to toxicology, what would be the ultimate toxic effects? The skull and bones too? Mati, ya betul, mati. Death. Death. So, actually the response, we call it as lethality or kematian or death. Okay, we can actually talk about other toxic effects, but ultimately death. People do not want to die early. Okay, so you have the dose. As you go increasing the dose, you will then get the death to be higher. And normally you get the LD50. LD50 meaning the dose that will give you lethality at 50%. Okay, and that value is always used as a ranking. In the hierarchy of what is more toxic, what is less toxic, the smaller the LD50 value, the more toxic it is. Makes sense or not? You have two compounds A and B. A possesses 1 milligram per mil as LD50. B then possesses 100 milligram per mil as an LD50. Comparing A to B, which one is more toxic? A, because you only need a little amount can already kill 50%. B needs 100 more to kill the same amount. Obviously, A is more toxic than B. So when you draw those response curve, when you have many chemicals to be involved and handle, when you have this LD50 value, can you now rank or screen the toxicity? You can. Okay, so that's why we must do the dose response curve. When it comes to heavy metals, when it comes to pesticide, it's not about the LD50. It would not reach LD50. In the environment, at the workplace, it will not be at the LD50. It would, if they are at LD50, if you walk out from Unsri, you die. Makes sense or not? Because LD50, L death already. But they are around you in the environment. They are at your workplace at very low dose. It will not kill you, but it is still a concern. Why is it still a concern? If you are going to be in that area, if you are going to be working at the workplace for the longest time, exposure, every day, every minute, every month, every year. Okay? What you are going to be exposed? Low. Can it go high? It can go high because you are going to be exposed to them for the longest time. You are not able to eliminate them rapidly because you are going to be there all the time. So can that low dose reach the LD50? It can. It can, right? Makes sense or not? Are you here, all here? Or you are at your Instagram already? You're all here already, still here, right? So can it, from that low dose around you, in you, can it then go up? It can go up. Can it reach the LD50? It can reach the LD50. So it is a concern if that human, if that worker is not going to excrete or eliminate the heavy metals or the pesticide. So when you talk about heavy metals or pesticide, these values would then be very helpful. What is going to be around you? The pesticide is actually meant for pests, not human. But you are going to be exposed to the pest. Okay, so that's why it's called maximum residue level. It's the residue, sisa, the baki, the balance of you spray the pesticide that will then reach you because it is not meant for you. Okay, pesticida sasarannya adalah kepada hewan, kepada pest, not you. So when it reaches you, we call it as the residue. So the maximum residue you can get from your dose response curve. If it reaches below the maximum residue level, it's okay because it will not get to the LD50. If it is more than the MRA, the MRL, then you need to consider how you want to monitor, how you want to mitigate the elementals or the pesticide. Make sense or not? From the dose response curve, you will also get what we call as the low hour and also the no hour. No hour meaning at the left hand side there is no side effects, there is no toxic effects. Make sense? Low you still get, but you get low death. Why is it important from the dose response? We need to consider the no hour and the low hour. Let's take this concept in occupation. In occupation, say for example, that individual has to work with radiation. Radiation can give you DNA damage, can lead you to many other health consequences. Understand? So they have to work with radiation. In that industry, in that factory, they are the workers in that factory to be exposed to radiation. They cannot say, I don't want to work with radiation because it's their company, it's the factory. If they don't work, then they will not be able to support the family. They will not be able to make money. They need to be exposed to this radiation or chemicals. They must be there to be exposed to these chemicals. So, you want or you don't want, these things are needed to be calculated so that they are going to be exposed, but they will not die. They will only die if you expose the radiation at LD50. Make sense? But they will not die if you expose the radiation at from the dose response curve. You have a worker to be exposed to the radiation. You have drawn the dose response curve of that radiation. You want the worker to work with the radiation. Yes, you can. You expose the radiation at which? No observable adverse effect level. Can you see? From 0 to a range, you already get a range of doses where the workers will not be having any effect at all. But the dose has already increased a little bit, right? It goes to the right hand side, right? So can they work? Can they be exposed? Are you going to be concerned? No, because no observed adverse effect level. Say for example, you want to sterilize the food, you want to radiate the food a lot more. You know already at the no observed adverse effect level, it will not give you any adverse effect, it will be safe. But then you will not be able to sterilize the food, you need to increase the radiation. Can we increase the radiation and expose the workers at the lowable observable adverse effect level? Can or no? The no, confirm already on that. Now you want to make sure that you get it faster, more quickly. The food can be sterilized at higher radiation. You increase a little bit more. It goes beyond the no hour. Now it reaches the low hour. Are we allowed to expose our workers with the range at low hour, at the low adverse effect level? Ujian, right? It's an exam. It's not an exam on how you think. It's better to think right and then you understand the concept. Are we able to then expose our students, our workers with low hour? Would you want your worker to die? At low hour level, would your worker die? Low. Low and no. No got death or not? Low got death or not? Yes. Low also got death. But low, you all understand no and low? No, nothing. Low so much. Yeah, so you exposed to this dose, would your worker die? Die. Okay, they die. Okay, we do not want to kill people. Like in Palestine, no. We want to make sure people get safety. So if you expose your workers to lower work, would that be okay? Theory is no, but can. Theory say no, understand that? Because still low. But can? Can. How come? So, your worker asklah to wear PPE, personal protective equipment, wear double layer, triple layer, wear safety goggle, wear gloves. Can it get inside the radiation? Can it go through the human? The law will then become no. But the radiation involved now is higher. So in occupational toxicology, dose response is important or not? Dose response is important for you to develop and assess or not? It is. Okay, so now when it comes to making choices, these are the choices. So if you have food, to be safe, to have microplastic, life is about choices, you don't eat the food. But the food you like so much, the pancake made from the ikan is filled with carbohydrates. You love it so much. You want to eat, can. But don't eat every day, morning, afternoon, tomorrow, the year after. No. When you eat your pancake filled with carbohydrates, then you eat it with fruits and vegetables. You make your detoxification excretion better. Okay, so it's not about who you can eat, not who you can eat. It's about creating awareness in individuals and into our workers also. Okay? Don't be so stressed. Right, now I want to talk about the other concept of toxicology, which is the kinetics and the dynamic. This is very important. The kinetic is about the movement. Kinetic is all about the movement of the contaminants, of the pollutants, of the toxic materials within yourself and out from yourself. Do you want your toxic chemicals to be in yourself? No. You want the toxic compounds to be out from yourself. So the movement from to go within and then out is what we call kinetics. When it is inside the human, when it is inside the body, it will not give you any toxic effects until you get the dynamic. Dynamic means now it's attached to the DNA. Now it's going to bind to the macromolecule fat, protein, lipid. You have your DNA, genetic sequence is normal. Suddenly you have something attached to it. It would now become abnormal. It would not want to go away. Your DNA now become abnormal. Your cell now become abnormal. Proliferation of abnormal cells will then give you tumor, will then give you cancer. That's the dynamic. If a pregnant mother is exposed to chemical pollutants, the mother would then probably be okay, but the baby and the adult probably have teratogenicity because the chemicals, the toxicants, dynamically can cross through the placenta, get to the baby, and give abnormalities to the embryogenesis. That's the toxicodynamic. So toxicodynamic and toxicokinetics are the two important concepts now when you want to consider your environmental or your occupational toxicology. Okay? I want to give one example of how toxicokinetics is very important. So you have your body. Kinetics, the movement of within and out is always about A, D, M, and also E. If your toxicants is not absorbed into your body, you are going to be fine. Make sense? Because it is not going to get into your body. That's why the importance of personal protective equipment. That's why the importance of workers to wear gloves. That's why it's important for students in the lab should wear lab coats. Because compared to the other students who are not working in the lab, you are going to be exposed. Remember exposure just now? To chemicals that are hazardous. So in this case, if you wear your lab coat, it will not get absorbed to the skin. Understand? So absorption is the first disposition case when you want to talk about toxicants. Now when you want to talk about toxicants getting inside your body, there are three important pathways. Tapak jalan tiga. Inhalasi, ingesti, and also dermal contact. Okay, inhalation, whatever is in the environment you inhale, it can get into your body. Ingesti, meaning whatever you eat, it can get into your body. Okay, with your own choice. Dermal contact, whatever you put on your skin, it will also get into your body. Now, when it gets into your body, you cannot do anything else. Okay, so your body will then take over to get rid of these toxicants. So for now, I want you, the next concept is to always love back your body. Always love yourself more. Okay, not only spiritually, not only mentally, but also physically. Okay, you don't compare yourself with other people, that is spiritually and mentally. But when it comes to physically, you love yourself a little bit more. When you come to the campus, when you go shopping, when you go outside, okay, you are going to be exposed to a lot of environmental pollutants. How old are you already? You are more than 20 years old already, correct? More than 20, 17, more than 15 years old already. Okay, why are you not dying? Why you don't have cancer? Why you still living and breathing? Did you ever think that? Have you ever reflected yourself? Why? Is because your body has been taking care of you. The ways of how the body is taking care of you is the concept of toxicokinetic also. So when something has gone inside, body doesn't like that idea. Anything foreign that gets inside your body doesn't like that idea. You have a home. A stranger gets into your home. You like that idea? No. Even if your nephew come into your house, stay for 1 hour, okay. Stay for 1 year, correct? So in this case, you don't like other people to get into your home. That is the concept of toxicokinetic. Whatever that is foreign gets into your body doesn't like that idea because they don't know who you are. Body wants to eliminate. So when body wants to eliminate, that's where D comes in, distribution. So the distribution, the body will then want to distribute the toxic compounds to the major organs of elimination, your liver and also your kidney. Okay, and then to eliminate this foreign compound is not that easy. So before it can be eliminated, it needs to be metabolized. So that's where M is. So when something gets in the body, you want the toxic compound to go out. If you do not get the toxic compound to go out, what will happen? Accumulation, correct? So you really want it to go out. How? That's where metabolism will then come handy. Metabolism is something that the body is putting so much effort. Okay, that's why you have to love your body self, your body back. So to do metabolism is very challenging, it's very difficult, but your body loves you so much, it still does. You are the only ones who doesn't love back your body. Okay, you take. Or you take in contaminants and additive and you take care of yourself so the body will not be able to be functioning effectively. So in the major organs for metabolism, the body would then want to metabolize something toxic to become something not toxic. So that's why detoxification is carried out mainly in the liver. Detoxification is important to get rid of a lot of these toxicants. Okay, so you invest in your liver. You take care of your liver. You don't invest in the detox drink. You don't waste your money buying detox juice. All that rubbish you can drink. But it will not do detoxification because detoxification is carried out by the liver. You want to get rid of the toxicants, you take care of your liver. Okay, and when the liver has carried out all of the detoxification, metabolism and excretion always go hand in hand. When you have done your metabolism, you would then have your excretion. Your excretion, you would no longer have the toxicants inside your body. That's the kinetic. Whatever goes in, goes out quickly. A lot of factors factors will then influence this kinetic. Okay, during the pandemic, babies, elderly stay at home. Adults can go out and do grocery shopping. How come babies and elderly stay at home? Because when you are outside during the pandemic, the virus is in the air. The ones who are going to be susceptible to the risk is going to be the babies and the elderly. How come? They cannot do metabolism. They cannot do excretion because the organs are not fully developed. Because the enzymes to convert a lot of detoxification is not functioning very well. So it makes sense when people say baby, elderly stay at home, the adults can go out and do grocery shopping. That's the kinetic. Understand? Is it too much? Because I can see a lot of wrinkles on your face already. Not too stressful, right? I'm trying to make this as how you can understand this better. Remember, it's all about creating awareness. Okay, now we can get to environmental toxicology. Okay, I've included some concept of environmental toxicology within the toxicology concept itself. But now when you see environmental toxicology, it's no longer about yourself. Just now it's about loving yourself, right? When you are doing environmental toxicology, your pahala is going to be a great more. Because now you don't only want to take care of yourself, you want to also take care of other beings. When you talk about environmental toxicology, you want to take care of yourself, you also want to take care of your friends. When you are taking care of your friends, you also want to take care of your neighbor friends. Inilah Malaysia. Okay, when you want to take care of your other neighbor friends, you also want to take care of the other people globally. So it's no longer about organism, it's no longer about yourself, it's about population. Understand? It's about, that's why creating awareness is important. Okay, some drugs are effective in certain countries, some drugs are not effective in other populations. You need to educate so that people know how to use the drugs. For example, when it comes to environmental toxicology, it's about not just your population, it's about ecosystem and also community. Okay, and when it comes to environmental toxicology, it's not just about biotic, it's also about abiotic compartments. Biotic compartments, we define biotic as living organisms. Human living, animals living, plants living. So, biotic organisms, we must take care of them too. Abiotic meaning not living. For example, your air, your soil, your water. Okay, so environmental toxicology now, the same concept, but now it's not just you, it's other people, it's other community, it's other population, it's about the air, the soil, and also the water. Understand? Okay, so that brings me to when you've learned about the father of modern toxicology, you will then have the mother. The mother of the environment movement is Rachel Carson. Okay, Rachel Carson wrote this book called Silent Hill. Silent Hill. Silent Hill is the Silent Spring. Okay, what happened was at that time, Rachel Carson went back home, and then suddenly she experienced during spring. At that time, suddenly becomes silent. When you have 4 seasons, you have summer, spring, autumn, and also winter. Spring normally when the birds come out. Spring is when normally you get the harvest from your plantations. Okay, but this at that time suddenly Rachel Carson went back home and everything becomes silent. No birds. Okay, no birds chirping, everything becomes silent. So she questioned, how come? So when she wrote the book, she actually wrote about the toxic consequences of this certain insecticide. So you have many types of pesticide. You have insecticide, fungicide, rodenticide, but this particular insecticide is used to kill insects, and it is called DDT. It is an organochlorine. Okay, organochlorine is used to kill insects. It's used to kill insects in the plantation where Rachel Carson was actually living. So she began to notice that when people want to use insecticide DDT at the plantation area, they use aeroplane. So when they use aeroplane, they release the DDT onto the plantations, similarly to pesticide sprayer. But when you release it from the plane, you have the wind, you have the weather, okay, you have the climate happening around the plantation. So it doesn't fall down to the plantation, it goes everywhere else. And people don't study about DDT towards the animals, towards the eggshells, towards the plants, towards the beetles, towards the eagles. Because that's what Rachel Carson was demonstrating and showcasing in her book. She talked about the eagles, she talked about the eggshells, she talked about there are no more moth or butterflies. It's all because those insecticides is not meant for those animals, but they actually target those animals, and that's the reason why the spring and where Rachel Carson was living suddenly becomes silent. The thing about why Rachel Carson was hailed as the mother of environment movement, it made people want to think about the pesticide use. So they have come up with a law on pesticide. Okay, so one of the items in the law of pesticide use is DDT should no longer be used. Okay, in certain countries DDT still be used, but for many other countries DDT has been banned. Can you see that the impact of a book can make a huge consequences to the law, to the people, to the farmers, and to the people, to the community. Okay, so please write books. Please write more articles. Okay, because even you don't have that power, but your power comes in your pen. Okay, when you write a lot of things, it can give you good positive impacts. So that's what Rachel Carson was doing. And Rachel Carson talked about the DDT. DDT was meant to kill insects, and in certain countries it's to control malaria. This morning we talked about malaria also. So DDT was one of those insecticides to be used. But then, during the DDT was used in the previous years, they do not want to talk about the toxicology of DDT to humans, DDT to plants, DDT to other insects. So after they have seen the balance between how it can control malaria and how it can give other detrimental effects to human, that's the reason where you get the curse more than the miracle, and DDT now has been banned. I don't know in Indonesia, but in Malaysia it has been banned. Okay? Banned. As I said, banned already. Good. Okay, so same of us. But in India, it's still not banned. In Indonesia. Because India don't have. So that's why you need to go around more the country. Okay, now to give you to another case, because I'm sure now you are into your TikTok and Instagram. Okay, I want you to look at this toxicology case, particularly to do with occupational toxicology. Just not environmental, not occupational toxicology. It's about this person. That person who was sitting down, he is Sir Percival Pott. Okay, he's from England. Sir Percival Pott is the father, but not now father, right? Father of epidemiology and occupational toxicology. That's the person, Sir Percival Pott. Sir Percival Pott was hailed as the father of epidemiology and occupational toxicology. Is because in his country, in England, he wrote an article about the link of scrotum cancer and chimney sweepers. Just now we talked about ovarian cancer in ladies. Now in men we want to talk about scrotum cancer. Okay, so scrotum cancer is now linked at that time linked with chimney sweepers. So in England, there is occupation which you call as chimney sweepers. In England, you have 4 seasons. In winter, in autumn, you need to make sure your chimney is clean. Because when you burn the coal to make your house warm, the smoke must come out from the chimney. Okay, if you don't have the chimney clean, the smoke will then stay in your house. Understand? So you have this occupation called the chimney sweepers. Now all those photos on your left hand side are the chimney sweepers. Okay? First, when you look at all those photos, all the chimney sweepers are boys. That's why scrotum cancer. Okay, when you see all those photos, all these boys are small. Okay, because they need to go into the chimney. You know what's a chimney, right? You see chimney? Chimney is that one. Okay, so they need to go in the chimney, they need to be small. Don't ask me how Santa Claus get into the chimney, and it's a different story. So in this case, you have them to go into the chimney, and when they get into the chimney, you will see on the top picture, all of them have become blackened. They are all white people, England, right? So but they go in, they went in, and when they went out, when they work, they are actually become blackened with the tar, with the smoke inside the chimney. So Sir Percival Pott has done studies and research, and he linked chimney sweepers to scrotum cancer. Occupation, right? Now my question is, why scrotum cancer? Answer is because the workers are boys. Okay, if you have the girls go in, probably other types of cancer. Mainly, it's because the boys who go in the chimney, they get scrotum cancer. And how did they get the scrotum cancer? It's because of the carcinogens exist within the chimney. Makes sense? Because in the chimney it's all black. You get the polyaromatic hydrocarbons, you get the tar, you get the coal, you get the benzene and all that. Okay, so in this case, why are these carcinogens is targeting the scrotum? Why not skin? Like talking about it just now. Why not lung? They inhale, right? In the chimney, why not lung cancer? Why must it be scrotum? Why not skin? It's like it's connectivity. How can you answer this? You imagine the talked about it just now? To ovarian cancer, similar. Similar. Why is this important? I want to tell you the importance of this activity. In Malaysia, we have done research on community among paddy farmers. Paddy farmers, they use pesticide. They use pesticide to spray in the morning. Okay, to make sure the paddy will then give you a lot of paddy, rice. Okay. The similarity is with the pesticide sprayer occupation, it is linked with a lot of reproductive organs. Cancer, reproductive organ cancer. Okay, testicular cancer, whatever cancer you can have, the reproductive organ in male. So the scenario is actually the same, and we're not talking about the 1500, we're talking about now. In Malaysia, it's happening now. Okay, we have done a lot of surveys, we have done a lot of research, community work among the paddy farmers, and we have found out the link between pesticide sprayers and also reproductive organ toxic consequences. So it must be discussed. Okay, probably I don't know about the Indonesian scenario, it could be also similar because you also have paddy. Okay, so what can we think about this? So you know already, the one that gives you the scrotum cancer will be the one that is existing in the chimney. The one that gives you scrotum cancer in the paddy farmers will be then come from the pesticide. Okay, so we know the culprit already. We know who actually gives the carcinogenic consequences. But what we want to talk about now is how come it's giving you this type of cancer. When you talk about the ovarian cancer, we talk about what? We talk about the anatomical the structure of the reproductive organ. Can we also talk about this when it comes to your scrotum? Not your scrotum, the scrotum of the chimney sweepers? Can we? Are you all giving up already? Can we talk about hygienicity? Can we talk about exposure? Well, yes. Elaborate. Explain. So So let's talk about the anatomical structure. If you look at your scrotum, if you look at your scrotum, what can I say this? In a scrotum, okay, what will be the anatomical structure of the scrotum that will make the carcinogen stays longer? Remember we talked about it stays longer than get accumulated, right? What makes the scrotum in the Chinese reverse will be the target organ for the carcinogen to become accumulated. Not helping? Now, if you very good, chimney. Start with the chimney. What's the environment of the chimney? Small. A lot of things inside the chimney and gas. Okay, small. So when the chimney vapors get into the chimney, it's only during winter because people don't burn during summer. Okay, now winter. So winter chimney. Winter outside cold, chimney inside. Winter outside cold, chimney inside. Opposite hot. Hot, right? So hot because you burn. So they need to go in and clean, right? So when it is hot, humid, what would you do? Sweat. Okay? They sweat. Did they, how come then when they sweat? Did they go in? You can see they wear clothing, sir. They're not naked when they're in the chimney. They wear clothing. Okay? So when they wear clothing, they sweat, what will happen? Scratching. It will go down. If it goes down, they are poor people. Okay? They are Chinese people, but they are low socioeconomic status. So would they want to go and have a bath or a shower, clean themselves? No, it's cold outside. To warm the water is going to involve a lot of money. So they don't shower, they don't bath, they work every day. They sweat every day. Hygiene is no longer existing. So the sweat will then go down, go to the scrotum. Would it then be accumulating? It would then be accumulating. And they work every day, every week, every month. Exposure increase. When you look at the scrotum would then have these wrinkles, which we call as the rugae. That wrinkles would then have the surface area to be increased and for the accumulation of these carcinogens to be more. Now, would it make sense that they would then develop scrotal cancer? Compare that to the pesticide sprayer. What's happening? We asked the pesticide sprayer in Malaysia, okay, particularly with the eastern region. With the eastern region, they are more Islamic. Okay, so when they are Islamic, they pray 5 times a day, they need to take wudu, ablution, and all kesucian diri is priority. Can we say hygiene would that be their problem? No. And when we question them, the dairy farmers, whether how they exposed to this pesticide, they say they only exposed to the pesticide when they spray the pesticide to the body, and then when they want to go home to their family, they would not even want to carry the pesticide into their home. So they would jump into the river, they would clean themselves outside, they would put their PPE outside, then only they make sure they are clean, then only they get their food into their home. But still, how come that the effects are still there? Education is there, but it is not complete. So what is wrong actually? And it's actually currently happening. It's not the things that have been past. When they want to solat, they need to take ablution. They need to clean themselves. When you want to perform prayer, you have to make sure you are clean. When we talk about Jackie, when we talk about ovarian cancer just now, when we talk about Chinese viewers, it makes sense they don't take care of their hygiene. But we are talking about the Muslim dairy farmers. They know that the pesticide will then give you this what they actually do is actually, yes, they do not bring the pesticide inside. They put the PPE outside in the yard. Okay, they go inside clean with the family. But when they want to work tomorrow, they wear the same PPE hanging outside. When they want to go home, they clean themselves. Tomorrow they want to work, they wear the same PPE. What's happening there? They are going to have more exposure to the PPE because they are wearing the same PPE which are already overloaded with the pesticide. Understand? And when we also ask question, when they wear PPE should be worn complete, but it is not complete. They know that they wear boots, they know that they need to wear gloves, they know that they need to wear hat, okay, or cloth. But what is happening? Yes, okay boots, yes, okay gloves, but when it comes to the hat, is the hat that made from jerami. What's the Indonesian jerami? Straw hat. Some straw, jerami, yeah. So sometimes koyak, sometimes it's already broken, spoiled. Okay, and the jerami, the pesticide can persist longer. Okay, that's the second thing that they have misunderstood. Now, the most important thing when it comes to toxicokinetic and occupational toxicology is this one. When you look at overall human body, you will see that the rate of absorption is different from different areas of your body. What would be the highest rate of absorption in the human body? Don't point, say. Don't point, say. Can you read? Can you tell? Genital area. So now makes sense or not? Similar to chimney sweepers. Because the skin is too thin. Okay, around, that's why genital area you take care. Because the skin is very thin. Whatever you apply, whatever you put, think twice. Because it's thin, absorption. Now we talk about the A, D, and E, you do not want the A. Okay, that's why you wear your PPE. Okay, but then since it's a thinner skin, the pesticide can go in there and give you the cancer there. Make sense? What's the second thing? What's the second area? Ear canal, around here, cuping telinga. What do you call this in Indonesia? Cuping telinga juga. Okay, it's very thin. Okay, yang tebal tu because dia nak dengar kata. Okay, and the heel. Okay, cuping telinga is thin, right? So that's why when you go up the hill, very Himalaya, very cold, you wear snow cap. You wear snow cap, you cover the area supaya your ear would not fall off. Okay, you don't wear snow cap in the shopping complex. You wear snow cap when you go up, it makes sense. Okay, you wear snow cap because you want to be a rapper. Okay, so in this case, you want to protect the ear because it's too thin, it can fall off. What's the third thing? What's the third area? Yeah, the head. Think, whatever that you put in your head, also think twice. When I was doing my degree years, I had friends who are actually looking at the toxic effects of hair dyes on rats. Okay, and they can see the dye actually go into the brain. Okay, because here is very thin also. Because we normally like to put things in our hair. Okay, so whatever that gets to the hair can get to the scalp is also thin. What is the least area? The palm of the hand and the tapak kaki. Okay, tapak kaki somewhere, tapak tangan somewhere. So, is the thickest. The farmers wear gloves, the farmers wear boots. We actually don't have to worry because yes, it's PPE, but they are not concerned about the other area. They had tadi tu, remember? Now the sweat, the PPE yang dipakai every day, that's the reason. And that's the concern. One example of occupational toxicology happening in 1500, now it's happening among So, do you want now to graduate and help your own community, create awareness and educate them? Okay, now I want to get to the, is it too long already? Okay. Okay, so you're all tired already? Do you want to keep me up? You want to talk about now heavy metals and pesticide toxicology? Okay, with heavy metals and pesticide toxicology, like I say, it's not about human, it's about from human to other people, to other living organisms, and then to other non-living organisms. We must take care of ourselves. Saya minum dulu boleh? Sebab saya tanya you soalan jawab yes or no saja. If you have any question to ask now, can also.
Iya guys, kalau ada pertanyaan sekarang, you can ask to Professor. Don't worry if you cannot ask in English, you can ask in Indonesian. We will understand and I can translate it to you. Professor understand Indonesia? Yes, please.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Amanda Nabila. I am the undergraduate student in the 5th semester. So my question is, how can we integrate occupational health and safety principle for farmer to prevent direct exposure to toxic pesticide in workplace? Because we've been know that some pesticide that is contain toxics. Thank you.
How do you look we talked about PPE, right?
Yes.
PPE.
The thing that I want to know is,
You want you want safety, right?
Yeah.
Which is safety when they use pesticide.
Yeah.
So pesticide, right? Those parts that you talked about just now, very PPE, right? But what's wrong with the PPE?
The thing I want to know is, how can we make the farmer is not use the toxic one, because there is some other alternative like the organic pesticide.
Oh, you want to talk about just the pesticide?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Do you know the reason why farmers actually choose that kind of pesticide? Because we cannot blame farmers also, right? Do you know why? I'm sure the government has proposed a list of pesticides to be used. Because the government would then have done a lot of research to come up with a list of pesticides to be legal to be used. So at the end of the day, you see a lot of farmers, not just in Indonesia, they would want to get from other countries, they would then want to use the illegal ones, right? What would you think the reason is? You have the ones recommended, but they don't want, they want the illegal ones.
Is that because it's cheaper?
Very good. Cheaper, cheaper, it can kill more, it can kill faster. So if it's cheap, it can kill more, it can kill faster. To the pest, it's going to be worse to us. So when they buy, they only know about our good products, our good harvest, our plantation to be okay. But would they ever consider themselves? Because if they know that they are going to have cancer, and they are going not to be okay or healthy, can they then work? Cannot. Can they then support their family? Cannot. Can that land be given to their generations? Cannot. Because they die already. They don't see that. They only see money that comes from the produce. So how are we going to deal with that? You can. So now the problem is it the pesticide?
No.
No, it's the problem is
The farmer.
then how? If the farmers is a problem, if you're working with the government or if you're the one who monitor the plantation, you want to talk to the farmers, educate the farmers. If you still carry on buying the illegal ones, this is Yes lah. You get equal idea?
Yes.
Yes. Who can do that?
Well,
You right?
yeah.
That's it. The government can only untuk mematuhinya is the farmers. Okay?
Thank you.
That's it. Okay, that's okay. We don't like that. Okay, so when it comes to when you compare environmental toxicology to the toxicology that we talked about just now, you see that it is no longer about arsenic. Just now, arsenic a little bit can already kill. Okay, and you know that when it comes to environmental toxicology, the dose is no longer about the high dose it's going to kill. It's about the low dose. So the concept of bioaccumulation is important in environmental toxicology, because what you are going to be exposed, pesticides, heavy metals, microplastics, are already under the LGPP, are already very minute or very small. Okay, but they can actually give you harmful effects if they can persist in the environment, if they can persist in the human body, they accumulate, and then that dose will then become high, and when it is high, the risk is high, the toxic effects also going to be high. Okay? And when you want to consider your toxicology just now to environmental toxicology, when you want to talk about pesticide, when you talk about heavy metals, which type of toxicity that you want to consider? Is it acute or chronic? When you talk about acute, is short time, high dose. When you talk about chronic, low dose, longer time. So when you want to talk about heavy metals, pesticide, environmental toxicants, all these toxic effects will actually come from which type? Chronic toxicity. Okay, so they will not die the day after they use the pesticide, but they will probably have the toxic effects months after, years after. When you want to consider pesticide to give you acute toxic effects, probably it's because suicide, probably because of accidental poisoning. Okay, but rarely it's going to be happening in the farmers. A lot of toxic effects are to do with the chronic toxicity. Okay? So the ones that we want to look at that can give you the toxic effects there are many, but Unsri only wants to talk about heavy metals and pesticides. Okay, so you must know what is the characteristics of heavy metals, what are heavy metals, and what are pesticides. Okay, so heavy metals and pesticides can be naturally occurring. They can be around you. Pesticide can also be chemically synthesized. Okay, so there are chemicals that are meant to kill pests. You want to kill the weed. Okay, you want to kill the rodent, the animal. You want to kill the fungus. You want to kill the insects. You use pesticide. They are meant for that target population. Okay, like I said, when you use your pesticide, it can also reach to the non-target. Non-target us. Non-target other animals. Non-target other plants. Understand? Okay, so in order to understand heavy metals and also pesticide toxicology, the kinetic and the dynamic is important also for you to consider. Okay, so when it comes to heavy metals and pesticide, they are all small. Small molecular weight. Absorption, good. Meaning toxic effects would then be worse. When you spray your pesticide, they are volatile. So when they are volatile, you inhale. Absorption would then be greater. Okay, and it's going to be difficult to be excreted if you always use your pesticide in your plantation. Okay, so what you need to know with your heavy metals and pesticide are those same thing, two concepts, the kinetics and also the dynamics. Let's talk about specific heavy metals. Cadmium. Okay, cadmium is long time ago is infamous for this disease called Itai disease in Japan because cadmium was found in the rice. Japanese people like to eat rice, Japanese people like to eat raw fish. And when they do sushi, they make the rice, they boil the rice, and the rice at that time was filled with a lot of heavy metals occurring naturally, okay, and cadmium give them the itai disease. Itai in Japanese means sakit. Okay, itai, sakit. Okay, so sakit disease meaning it happens at the joints. Okay, so at the joint, the cadmium will then be deposited. So it's like gout, it's like your uric acid. It's very painful, so that's why itai. So cadmium is actually the heavy metals that is actually the culprit for the itai disease. You will then have your lab, your plumber, whichever way that you want to pronounce it. Okay, this is one way how you want to remember the toxic effects of plumber or lead. L stands for line, so you see that in the blue lines on the gums, straight away you know it has got to do with lead, because lead is in the drinking water. Okay, so when you drink the drinking water too much of plumber or lead, you will then have that toxic consequences. E, meaning lead, can also go to the brain. Okay, when you drink water, baby also drink water, children also drink water. Remember we talk about children compared to the adults, which one would then become more susceptible? Which one would then be more having toxic effects? The baby or the adult, dewasa? The baby, because they don't have enough insan, they don't have enough organs to be developed. Okay, so they have effects to the nervous system. Okay, and of course when you consume, it gets to the gut, you get the A, and then the most typical toxic effects or side effects of lead toxicity is the drop foot and the drop wrist. Okay, because it happens, it will then, similarly to the cadmium, it will then be deposited at the neuromuscular junction. Okay, all of this in the textbook, all of these notes is in the club. Okay, students like to memorize, students just like to read. Okay, not getting inside. Okay, what I want to emphasize more is how are we going to make sure that we will not get the toxic effects of these heavy metals. Other heavy metals, there is a concern, is also mercury. Okay, because in the pampag is fish. Okay, so mercury can also get in the fish, and this is a concept of biomagnification. I'll explain more about bioaccumulation and biomagnification afterwards. But similarly to cadmium, the disease that is always associated, prominent to mercury toxicity is the Minamata disease. Again, in Japan. In Japan, there is a Minamata Bay, the Lake Minamata, and around the Minamata Bay, there is an industry which releases the mercury into the seawater. When it releases the mercury in the seawater, the mercury gets into the fish. Japanese people like to eat rice, like to eat raw fish, sashimi and also sushi. So they want staple food, meaning they're going to eat them every day, meaning exposure increase, risk is going to be increased. And when it comes to Minamata disease, you can see it will involve one generation to another generation. Most probably it will then affect more to the baby rather than the mother. Similarly, it would then, if it can go to the baby, it can go to the brain. Okay, so kecacatan dalam kelahiran will happen. Okay, and you will see that the mother is okay, but the baby is not okay. And you will then have a lot of abnormalities. Okay, and then it will carry on, and the susceptibility is always towards the young one. When you talk about the mercury, it can be inorganic and also organic. Chemically, we talk about inorganic, it will go down the E excretion to the kidney. So kidney toxicity. When you talk about the organic distribution, it's going to go, if it can go through the placenta, it can go through the blood-brain barrier. So it can go through the brain where you get the Manhattan disease, go cycle. Okay, so why same mercury but 2 times mercury give you different target organ toxicity. Now, when it comes to pesticide, there are many pesticides, like I say, DDT, insecticide, rodenticide, but what you want to consider are the ones that are going to persist in the environment. This group of pesticides, we call them as POPs, persistent organic pollutant. Just now we talked about organic chemically. Now it can, very solubility is very good. It can go through the placenta, it can go through the blood-brain barrier. Persistent meaning the gear. The gear in Indonesia is the same? No. Okay. What is never mind. Persistent meaning it doesn't want to move. It stays there. Okay. So persistent organic pollutants. You have the pollutants in the environment and it would not want to go to anywhere. What about the exposure? For a long ride, it's continuously going to give you the exposure. The longer the exposure, the risk is higher. Remember the risk of assessment. Okay, so exposure higher, mathematically the risk is going to be high. And the persistence of this pesticide in the soils, if you can see, on top is your DDT. What does it mean by persistent in soil? It stays in the environment. Time for 75 to 100% to disappear from the environment. If you look at your DDT, for it to become disappear from the environment, 75% to 100% is 4 years. Your chlorine is 5 years. Meaning, if you use it one time, will it get away from the environment quickly? No. But when you use this pesticide at your plantation area, would you use it one time? You would not want to use it one time. You use it many seasons. You use it many times per year. The longer or not the persistent.
Sorry, Prof. I think the word you're looking for is mengendap in Indonesia. Persistence, yeah. Mengendap, yes.
Malaysia mengendap is like this.
Similar.
Itu sembunyi. Itu sembunyi. Mengendap. So the longer it persists, the longer exposure you have, the more risk you have. Okay, so that is one of the reasons why we actually also ban DDT. Okay, to control mosquitoes, your malathion, parathion, 1 week. Okay, so it depends on which pesticide that you use. You have to consider how long it will then persist in the environment. Now I want to then explain the concept of your bioaccumulation. Before you can understand bioaccumulation, you need to understand bioconservation. Bioconservation, bioaccumulation, biomagnification, the true concept is you have the concentration of your toxicant more inside than outside. Itu je. So mathematically, if you calculate the ratio, the value of what it can be soluble in octanol, meaning it is lipid soluble to water. If you have this, mathematically higher value, meaning it is going to be more soluble in octanol. Understand? Meaning it is going to be more lipid soluble. If it is going to be value very small, you would then have it to be soluble in water. Solubility is important because when we talk about water solubility, it can disappear from the environment quickly. When you have a chemical or toxicant which is very lipid soluble, the value is high, you will then have it not to be disappearing from the environment, you will then have it more to get inside your body. To go through the plasma, to go through the blood vessel, it needs to pass through the plasma membrane. Plasma membrane is lipid bilayer. Lipid like lipid, so anything lipid soluble will go in. So if you have a chemical, a pollutant, which has the value high, meaning it has the lipid solubility is high, can it get into you quickly? It can get to you quickly, it will then stay in you quickly. The only thing that it will go out if only it is water soluble. Do you understand that concept or not? So if something is lipid soluble, and almost all environmental pollutants are lipid soluble. So when they go in, they will find it very challenging to go out because they no longer possess the water solubility. Understand? So when we talk about this ratio, high inside than outside, this is what we call bioconcentration. Meaning the concentration of the heavy metals, concentration of the pesticide is more inside you compared to outside. Beda antara concentration and accumulation is, when you talk about concentration, you have the fish in the aquarium, you calculate the arsenic in the fish in the aquarium, you call it as the bioconcentration factor value. Understand? Now, when you consider your fish in the sea, in the river, you consider it as bioaccumulation factor value. What is the difference? One stays put, the other one can go anywhere. One stays put, they are going to be exposed to the chemical at that place only. In reality, bioaccumulation needs to be used is because that fish can go anywhere and different sites can be having some amounts of that pollutants. Understand? So if they go here, go there, and those places have the same arsenic will then meningkat or not? Will then be increased. And then you use the term bioaccumulation. It's the same but not the same. Biomagnification, same concept, but now it has got to do with food chain. You have low trophic level to high trophic level. Okay, so you have the the fish. Okay, the fish would then be not the higher trophic level. Fish makan apa ya? Cacing. Okay, so the worm, cacing is in the sea. So the cacing will then be exposed to the toxicant first. And then you have the higher trophic level, the fish will then eat the worm. Would the fish only eat the worm? No, fish would then eat other worms and also other things. And in these other things, you will also have the same pollutants. So the levels of these pollutants would then be accumulating or not? Accumulating. So the higher the trophic level, the higher of the concentration of your pollutants would be. So human would then eat the fish, our trophic level would then be higher, then your trophic level, your bioaccumulation would then be greater. Okay, so if a dinosaur is eating you, that dinosaur is the highest trophic level. Who's going to die first? The dinosaur. Understand? So in environmental research, bioaccumulation is important, but you need to compare and contrast. The term to be used is either concentration, accumulation, or magnification. Understand? So as the exposure is high, the dose is high, makes sense or not? The risk now is also high. Okay, good. Now, in environmental toxicology research, what is also important are the biomarkers. Remember the toxicodynamic? It attached to the lipid, it attached to the protein, it makes the DNA to be damaged. Okay, so if anything is going to be damaged because of this toxicodynamic concept, you can have what we call as the biomarkers. It will tell you what sort of toxic effects that you will get from what toxicant. So say for example, your acetylcholinesterase, your insecticide, your pesticide, organophosphate or carbamates, it works to kill the insects by having to act as an anticholinesterase. Anticholinesterase meaning it will then stop the action of cholinesterase. Okay, so anticholinesterase meaning it would then inhibit the metabolism of acetylcholine. You inhibit the metabolism of acetylcholine would then be increased. Acetylcholine in parasympathetic nervous system will give you rest and digest. You have so much of rest and digest, you get rest forever, mati. Okay, so that's why it can kill the insects. So it kills the insects by having the anticholinesterase action. If it is then exposed to human, we also have cholinesterase. We can also have the effects to our cholinesterase. So how are we going to know that we are going to have the effects of this organophosphate or carbamate? We take the blood, we measure the enzyme the cholinesterase in our body. So it's a biomarker, bio meaning in our living system, a marker meaning if it can kill the insects by inhibiting the metabolism of acetylcholine, at higher dose it can also kill us by inhibiting the metabolism of acetylcholine. Am I making sense? Okay, so biomarker is to mark in our living system. Similarly, the effects will be the same from the contaminants or the toxicants. This is different from bioindicator. Bioindicator means still living organisms, but these are to do with the non-target living organisms. Say for example, your insecticide is to kill insects. Okay, when it kills insects, it can also kill other things. Okay, so when it can kill other things, you look at the concept of biomagnification. What you want to stress on is the human toxicology. But then, human is higher trophic level. So bioindicator, meaning to indicate the health of human, you take living organism at lower trophic level. Your frog, your worm. So you sample the worm, take the worm, measure the levels of these contaminants or toxicants. You will then relate the toxicity in worms to human. Why? It's because worm is low trophic level, us human is high trophic level. If you can already see the toxic effects in the worm, obviously it would be more in human. Making sense? So that is the concept behind bioindicator. So in a lot of research, we don't really need to get the blood samples of human. We don't really need to sample the biological liquid from human. We can just get the plant, the worm, the living organism at lower trophic level, and we can relate that to our human health. Okay, and that's also what we do at our research centers.
Excuse me, could you please try the brown?
Okay. So finishing microplastic. Funny, sorry, hope you can. Okay, with microplastic is a cancer just now, like I said. Now, do you think you could microplastic? Could your food put the food on your plate contain plastic? Studies have been carried out in a way. Microplastic in your diet is like the weight of your credit card. Okay, so the more you eat, the credit card per week, you eat more seafood per week, after month, exposure is going to be more, the dose is going to be more, obviously the risk is going to be more. Okay, how it is going to be in the environment, it comes from the plastic itself, and it can also come whatever it is in the plastic. That's the challenge. Okay, it is released in the water. Again, bioaccumulation concept, you need to apply here. So the toxicology of microplastic would then happen in human. And when you want to talk about the existence of microplastic in Southeast Asian countries, a review has been published telling us that the type of seafood is also important. Seafood that has shells, seafood that you get from the sea, the microplastic will then be more in the gut area. So that's why when you want to cook the fish, make sure you clean the fish properly. Get rid of the gut. Okay, and one tip is, if you want to get rid of the microplastic, for us, for Indonesian and Malaysia, we always like clean the fish with tamarind, asam clean with asam tamarind is a good way to get rid of the microplastics. Okay, so it's not like you don't eat the fish, you take care of how you want to deal the fish before you cook. And in Asian countries, China has been reported to have the highest number of contaminated marine with microplastics. And not only that, Why it is a concern is because microplastic has a lot of toxicological effects. It can be your endocrine disrupting compounds. Okay, it can damage the brain, the nervous system. It can damage to the immune system and also other organs such as your reproductive organ too. So it is largely a concern. And one scenario also that has been reported in the water bottle. People think it's healthy. Of course, it's healthy because it's no sugar, it's nothing in it. But people don't realize the packaging is also made of plastic. Okay, so if this water bottle is put in outside, temperature also is a concern that you need to think of, because increase of temperature will then release the plastic from the water bottle. And most of the microplastic will then come from the top. Okay, from the penutup. Okay, so be careful, you can still drink. I'm not saying you cannot drink, but be careful not to put the water bottle in a very hot places and things like that. Other concerns, also microplastics have been found in tea bags. Okay, so that's why people have been suggested to use tea bags loosely, use tea loosely, not in the bags, in the salt. So that's why when it comes to choices, we choose the mountain salt rather than the sea salt. And then they also have found that milk also can contain microplastic, similarly to the water bottle. But now the concern is greater to baby than to us, because they cannot eliminate the microplastic compared to us. Okay, so what can we do? If you look at the map, we are one of the countries which also have many microplastic exposure. The challenge is we cannot actually define what would be the dose response of microplastic, because the microplastic will also contain other toxicants environmentally. But what is important is to always educate and create awareness. And with that, Ms. Poppy, I finish my lecture.
Thank you. Hello everyone. Please have a seat. We're coming to the Q&A session, but unfortunately, Professor's schedules is very tight, so we only accept 2 questions, unfortunately. Yeah, so I think Dr. Arita wants to ask first, or so? Yeah, please.
Thank you very much for the very insightful presentation from Professor Ghazali. I would like to introduce myself. My name is Ali Gafir. As the Dean introduced me, my background is environmental and industrial toxicologist, where I work a lot with everything which can deteriorate the environment. I do not want to ask, but I would like to give some enlightenment for the students, because currently I have a project because I'm also guest professor in Vietnam for 4 universities, and then our project currently about the genotoxicity of nano-pesticides with the Vietnam Academy of Science and Technology. And in September, in 2 months, I want to bring my 4 students from our department, plant protection, to Vietnam to conduct experiment about the genotoxicity of these nano-pesticides on non-target organisms, such as the worms and also honeybees, which are very common in Vietnam now, becomes a very, very big problem. So, and I would like also to encourage the students from the Faculty of Health Sciences, if you are interested in, to join our project with WASH programs, that is water and sanitation hygiene, together with our colleagues from Germany. I credited like Pak Din, Pak Hamza, also from Germany. In Nepal, as you said, about the plumber VB and also HG in water. So please contact me if you are interested in and about the environmental toxicology, because as professor in Vietnam, I'm also teaching ERA, Environmental Risk Assessment 2. So please keep in touch. Thank you so much, and then maybe I will contact you for our further collaboration in the future. Thank you so much.
Okay, next Lolita.
Thank you for the I ask Indonesia in bahasa Indonesia. Saya sedikit ingin share pengalaman saya terkait dengan studi disertasi saya yang memberikan saya stres sampai sekarang masih nightmare, masih berasa seperti itu. Ya, karena topiknya juga pesticide. Sebenarnya saya bukan dari basic environmental, saya basicnya dari optional safety and health sebenarnya. Namun waktu itu koordinator saya mengarahkan untuk namun pada saat proyek itu berjalan itu membuat ketertarikan yang walaupun saya banyak stresnya, masuk disuruh membaca science sprint dan lain-lain seperti itu, banyak sekali literatur yang diberikan. Nah, hasil dari temuan dari disertasi saya kemarin cukup menarik karena saya meneliti tentang organ fosfat di petani padi juga. Namun ternyata petani padi itu tidak hanya petani padi, mereka juga ada di sela-sela itu ada juga cabai, ada sayuran dan lain-lain yang mana frekuensi penyemprotan itu jadi lebih sering dibandingkan hanya dengan padi. Kalau padi kan hanya pada saat setelah masa panas. Nah, menariknya juga di sana mereka itu sistemnya living farming. Living farming itu sawahnya itu berada di belakang rumah mereka sendiri, sehingga dikaitkan juga dengan climate change, yaitu di mana area wetland suhunya tinggi, kelembapan relatifnya juga tinggi, dan itu meningkatkan persistensi pestisida itu juga. Sehingga temuan kami cukup menarik. Organofosfat itu dikenal sebagai penghambat inhibitor asetilkolinesterase ini. Namun kami mengambil topik yang masih debatable untuk menekankan, bukan membuktikan, tapi menekankan kembali bahwa masih ada kontroversi bahwa pestisida organofosfat itu punya efek terhadap respiratory health dan penelitian cukup bukan menggembirakan, tapi memberikan diharapkan memberikan kontribusi bahwa organofosfat juga punya efek terhadap respiratory health dan itu dengan prediktor utama adalah durasi penyemprotan, kemudian frekuensi penyemprotan, dan juga dikombinasikan dengan topografi wetland yang spesifik, yang humidity, high humidity, kemudian juga suhu udara yang tinggi itu, sehingga memberikan kontribusi yang lebih terhadap persistensi terhadap paparan exposure yang diterima oleh pekerja itu. Petani itu tidak hanya pada saat jam kerja, karena mereka juga living farming, bertanian di belakang rumah, di dekat rumah seperti itu, sehingga paparan itu menjadi lebih lama. Yang ingin mungkin saya tanyakan kepada Prof. Ahmad Rocky, bagaimana kita menyikapi yang climate change ini terhadap tadi penggunaan pestisida, walaupun saya tahu bahwa banyak profesor-profesor di industri sudah mengembangkan organic pesticide sudah, namun di lapangan kenyataannya itu mereka masih menggunakan pestiside kimia, dan itu di banyak, kalau di sini dikatakan dioplos atau dicampur berbagai dua atau tiga macam pestiside yang meningkatkan efek sinergisitas, sehingga lebih berbahaya efeknya bagi mereka sendiri.
I think what is how you, it's a very good project that you're doing. But I think where you want to improve. Have you looked at the polyester sensor? You have. ini udah dibuktikan memang datanya bagus. Because just now you proof membuktikan biomarker is a strong study that you can actually say yes from the organoids rather than other pesticide. Okay, so itu yang mungkin boleh dikembangkan. Then only is proven. But what you have is the stage where you can tell it's a concern because you can see from the survey they use the glyphosate and that's the only chemicals that they expose to the flowers. And kemudian itu graf itu the question is how you want to relate the topography. Soal selanjutnya kan ada soalan-soalan question on the locations. Okay. So when you can shape topography on map, you can do something on the IoT. Okay, so if the lab is a challenge, what you can do is we look at the topography, looking at potential contaminants from places like industries that could also be involved. So we can grow, but at least we can plan. But what is more important is that you already have the findings towards polyester in the respiratory. There is a huge enough range. So the rest is just to follow up.
Thank you, Melita. And so that ends our meeting for today, Prof. Thank you for delivering so many information, so many knowledge until you running out of voice. But yeah, semoga bermanfaat ya adik-adik mahasiswa sekalian. Semoga itu membangkitkan semangat kalian. And I don't think that you are that allergic to English language. All of you understand about the lectures, I think, and it's very fun. So semoga ini bisa menyemangati kalian untuk menggali ilmu lebih dalam lagi and expand your horizon, whatever you call it. You can go study abroad, don't be afraid. Okay? So remember the mantra that the professor taught us from Paracelsus, what is it? All things are poison. Yeah. Okay, so that's all for our Kuliah Tamu, or course for today. Thank you, Professor, for coming. Everybody, please, final applause. Thank you very much. So I have to conclude this meeting here. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, everyone.
Baik, terima kasih kepada narasumber kita, Profesor Ahmad Roli yang atas materi yang sangat inspiratif, kemudian komprehensif dan pengawasan kita semua. Kita telah melaksanakan sesi ini dan kegiatan kita pada hari ini. Semoga ilmu yang telah diperoleh pada hari ini dapat menjadi bekal dalam pengembangan pendidikan, kemudian penelitian maupun praktik profesional di bidang kesehatan masyarakat, khususnya pada aspek toksikologi lingkungan dan kesehatan kerja. Hadirin yang kami hormati, dengan berakhirnya sesi ilmiah tersebut, maka berakhirlah seluruh rangkaian kegiatan Kuliah Tamu Internasional pada hari ini. Kami atas nama panitia mengucapkan terima kasih kepada narasumber, kemudian kepada pimpinan fakultas, dosen, mahasiswa, serta seluruh peserta atas partisipasi dan dukungan yang telah diberikan. Apabila selama memandu acara